How much does every Italian aircraft used in WW2 cost today? From sleek Macchi fighters slicing through Mediterranean skies to lumbering Savoia-Marchetti bombers, Italy deployed dozens of aircraft across every front of World War II. Each machine carried a price tag, development costs, production expenses, maintenance budgets, that tells its own story of ambition, innovation, and industrial limitation. Adjusted for inflation and converted to modern dollars, these costs reveal whether Italy's aviation investments delivered victory or simply drained the treasury. Let's begin with the fighters and interceptors that defended Italian airspace and hunted Allied bombers. Fiat CR-42 Falco. The CR-42. Falco represented the twilight of biplane fighters, entering service in 1939 when monoplanes dominated European skies. Beloved by pilots for its agility, but hopelessly outclassed in speed, each cost approximately $780,000 in today's money. Italian industry produced over 1/800 despite its obsolescence, making it history's most manufactured biplane fighter. Fiat CR-32. The CR-32 earned its reputation during the Spanish Civil War, where its dogfighting prowess terrified Republican pilots. This earlier biplane design proved so successful that Italy kept it frontline into 1940. At roughly $650,000 adjusted, it represented excellent pre-war value before modern warfare rendered biplanes suicidal. Fiat G50 Frezia. The G50 Frezia marked Italy's hesitant embrace of monoplane design, with its enclosed cockpit and retractable landing gear. Pilots complained about poor visibility and mediocre performance against Hurricanes and Spitfires. Each aircraft cost approximately $1.2 million today, representing expensive lessons in catching up to foreign competitors. Macchi C200 Saetta. The C200 Saetta became Italy's radial engine workhorse, serving on every front from the Battle of Britain to North Africa. Its sturdy construction and reliable Fiat engine earned pilot respect despite lacking firepower and speed. At $1.4 million per aircraft in modern terms, it delivered solid value through sheer dependability. Fiat G55 Centauro. The G55 Centauro formed 1/3 of Italy's legendary Serie 5 fighters, mounting a German DB605 engine. Its powerful armament and excellent handling arrived too late, with only 274 built before the armistice. Each cost roughly $2.1 million adjusted, premium engineering that never reached its potential. Macchi C202 Folgore. The C202 Folgore transformed Italian fighter capability when Germany supplied DB601 inline engines for its sleek airframe. Suddenly competitive with Spitfires over Malta and North Africa, it became Italy's most successful fighter. At approximately $1.8 million each, the 1T200 produced represented Italy's best wartime aviation investment. Macchi C205 Veltro. The C205 Veltro marked the pinnacle of Italian piston engine design, combining German power with Italian elegance. Pilots called it equal to any Allied fighter, but only 262 flew before Italy's collapse. Each cost about $2.3 million today, world-class capability that arrived when defeat was inevitable. Next up, the bombers and attack aircraft that carried Italy's offensive dreams across the Mediterranean. Cant Z1007 Alcione. The Cant Z1007 Alcione featured Italy's signature tri-motor configuration, 3 engines powering a graceful wooden airframe. Its speed impressed during early raids, but structural weaknesses and limited payload made each $3.8 million aircraft questionable value. Savoia-Marchetti SM-79 Sparviero. The SM-79 Sparviero became Italy's most famous bomber, its distinctive humpback fuselage housing a crew that terrorized Allied shipping. As a torpedo bomber, it sank more tonnage than any Axis aircraft, justifying its $2.9 million cost through sheer lethality. Over 1,300 served throughout the war. Savoia-Marchetti, SM-81 Pipistrello. The SM-81 Pipistrello soldiered on from Ethiopia through early World War II, despite corrugated metal skin and fixed landing gear screaming obsolescence. At $1.9 million adjusted, these tri-motor workhorses proved their value hauling supplies across North Africa when nothing else could. Savoia-Marchetti SM-24. The SM-84 attempted replacing the beloved SM-29, but suffered catastrophic engine problems that killed crews and destroyed Italy's confidence. Each $3.2 million aircraft represented wasted resources, flying coffins that pilots refused when possible. Fiat BR-20 Cicogna. The BR-20 Cicogna participated in the Battle of Britain, where Spitfires shredded its inadequate defensive armament and thin armour. Roughly $2.6 million per aircraft bought marginal bombing capacity and vulnerability that made every mission a gamble. CRDA Kant Z506. The Z506 floatplane bomber brought maritime versatility, equally capable of reconnaissance and torpedo attacks from protected harbours. At approximately $3.4 million each, these amphibians proved their worth patrolling Mediterranean shipping lanes beyond enemy fighter range. CRDA Kant Z1018 Leone. The Z1018 Leone promised modern performance with 4 engines and heavy armament, but Italian industry collapsed before mass production began. Development costs exceeding $45 million yielded only 9 aircraft, making it among history's most expensive aviation failures per unit delivered. Piaggio P108. The P108 stood as Italy's only 4-engine heavy bomber, a technological achievement mounting remotely controlled defensive turrets. Only 163 flew operationally despite each costing roughly $5.7 million today. Strategic bombing ambitions crushed by industrial limitations. Piaggio P32. The P32 medium bomber remained perpetually prototype, promising improved performance that never materialized beyond test flights. Millions invested produced zero combat value. Another dream aircraft that drained budgets without delivering results. Caproni Kawamon 35. The Kawamon 35 found limited success as an export serving Spanish nationalists, while Italian forces rejected its mediocre performance. At $2.4 million adjusted, foreign sales recovered some development costs Italy's own military refused to waste. Caproni Car 3-10 Libeccio. The Car 3-10 Libeccio served as light bomber and reconnaissance platform across North Africa's colonial campaigns. Roughly $1.7 million each bought adequate performance for secondary theatres, where opposition remained limited and expectations realistic. Breda Bar 65. The Bayon 65 ground attack specialist promised close air support, but delivered exposed crews to enemy fire. Each $1.9 million aircraft became a death sentence once modern fighters appeared, withdrawn from frontline service after devastating losses. Breda Bar Don 88 Linz. The Bayer 88 Linz earned infamy as potentially World War II's worst combat aircraft, fast during testing but dangerously underpowered with combat loads. At $2.2 million per failure, dozens sat abandoned on airfields, too dangerous to fly and too expensive to scrap. Continuing with the reconnaissance, transport, and maritime aircraft that kept Italy's war machine operational. Caproni Car 309 Ghibli. The Car 309 Ghibli served colonial reconnaissance across Africa's brutal terrain, its twin engines and fixed landing gear prioritizing reliability over performance. At roughly $1.5 million adjusted, these bush planes justified costs through survival rates where maintenance bases barely existed. Caproni Sarah 314. The Sarah 314 evolved the Ghibli design into multi-role capability, reconnaissance missions transitioning to light bombing when targets appeared. Each $1.8 million aircraft offered tactical flexibility that colonial warfare demanded, adapting to whatever mission African skies required. Meridionale Ro 37. The Ro 37 biplane reconnaissance platform soldiered through the war despite fabric-covered obsolescence, pilots trusting its bulletproof reliability over modern failures. Approximately $720,000 each bought survival in an era when newer aircraft killed their crews through mechanical breakdown. Meridionale Row 43. The Row 43 launched from battleship catapults, floatplane scouts providing fleet commanders with eyes beyond horizon limits. At $980,000 adjusted, these expendable spotters justified their cost whenever they prevented ambush or guided naval gunfire. Savoia-Marchetti SM-82 Kangaroo. The SM-82 Kangaroo became Italy's heavy transport workhorse, tri-motor reliability hauling supplies across the Mediterranean, when surface shipping meant submarine death. Each $4.2 million aircraft represented premium capability, moving entire companies plus equipment to isolated garrisons. Fiat G12. The G12 tri-motor transport connected Axis operations from Italy to North Africa, its passenger capacity converting from pre-war airline service to military necessity. Roughly $3.6 million per aircraft bought mobility that kept scattered forces supplied and commanders connected. Caproni K148. The K148 filled utility transport roles, too small for larger aircraft, delivering urgent supplies and evacuating wounded from forward airstrips. At approximately $1.3 million adjusted, these workhorse twins disappeared into history despite keeping frontline operations functional. Savoia-Marchetti SM-75. The SM-75 began as prestige airliner, before war converted luxury into military cargo space, peacetime elegance hauling ammunition instead of wealthy passengers. Each $4.8 million aircraft reflected pre-war investment repurposed when survival mattered more than profit. Kant Z5001 Gabbiano. The Z5001 Gabbiano became Italy's ubiquitous maritime patrol seaplane, wooden construction and single engine making it cheap enough to scatter across every coastal base. At roughly $1.1 million each, over 450 watched Mediterranean waters despite vulnerability to any fighter that caught them. IMAM Row 43. The Row 43 attempted transforming floatplane reconnaissance into fighter capability, mounting machine guns on a platform designed for observation. Each $1.2 million experiment proved float drag and weight killed dogfighting performance, specialized aircraft refusing multi-role compromise. Macchi MC-94. The MC-94 flying boat handled maritime rescue, plucking downed airmen from waters that killed within hours. Approximately $2.7 million adjusted bought salvation for crews who otherwise drowned, humanitarian value impossible to measure against combat metrics. Piaggio P6. The P6 racing seaplane heritage adapted to reconnaissance, pre-war speed records translating into military scouting capability. At roughly $1.9 million each, elegant peacetime engineering served wartime necessity when Mediterranean geography demanded maritime aviation. Finally, we have the trainers, experimental prototypes, and foreign designs that complete Italy's aviation story. Finally, the trainers, experimental prototypes, and foreign designs that complete Italy's aviation story. Fiat CR20. The CR20 transitioned from frontline fighter to trainer as newer aircraft replaced its obsolete biplane configuration. At roughly $580,000 adjusted, it transformed combat veterans into instructors, teaching the next generation of pilots who would fly modern monoplanes. Nardi FN 305. The FN 305 became Italy's primary trainer factory, its forgiving handling and simple construction graduating thousands of pilots. Each $420,000 aircraft represented essential infrastructure, unglamorous machines that determined whether Italy could replace combat losses with qualified airmen. IMAM Row 41. The Row 41 biplane trainer persisted throughout the war despite fabric-covered anachronism, flight schools trusting its indestructible airframe over complicated modern designs. Approximately $390,000 each bought reliability when killing student pilots through mechanical failure wasted Italy's dwindling manpower. Macchi M416. The M416 floatplane trainer specialized maritime pilots for reconnaissance and torpedo bombing roles that defined Mediterranean warfare. At roughly $680,000 adjusted, these amphibious instructors filled the critical gap between basic flight training and combat operations over water. Caproni Cava 100. The Cava 100 served colonial Africa's training needs, its rugged construction surviving unprepared airstrips and brutal conditions. Each $510,000 aircraft represented imperial investment, preparing pilots for theaters where European tactics meant death and adaptation determined survival. SAI Ambrosini S7. The S7 aerobatic trainer emerged from peacetime aviation culture, its nimble performance teaching advanced maneuvers before war transformed sport into combat necessity. Approximately $470,000 adjusted bought skills that separated aces from casualties during Mediterranean dogfights. Caproni Campini N1. The N1 achieved jet-powered flight in 1940, Italy pioneering propulsion technology that could have revolutionized warfare. Development costs exceeding $78 million produced only 2 aircraft. Visionary engineering, abandoned when conventional designs demanded every resource available. Ambrosini SS4. The SS.4 experimented with canard configuration, forward-mounted control surfaces promising improved performance through radical aerodynamics. Each $1.4 million prototype explored designs Italy lacked industrial capacity to manufacture, theoretical advantages dying in laboratories, while combat demanded practical aircraft. Reggiane Ra 2007. The Ra 2007 promised high-altitude interception capability against Allied bombers, devastating Italian cities. Only 3 flew before armistice, each costing approximately $2.6 million in development investment that never protected a single factory from destruction. Piaggio P119. The P119 represented Italy's most advanced fighter design, combining German engine technology with cutting-edge aerodynamics. Armistice killed it during testing, roughly $3.1 million per prototype wasted, when defeat made future irrelevant and survival impossible. IMAM Ro 58. The Ro 58. Twin-boom pusher configuration challenged conventional design, experimental layout seeking performance advantages through unconventional engineering. At approximately $1.7 million adjusted, these prototypes proved curiosity without capability. Aviation dead ends explored while practical designs fought and died. Junkers Ju 87 Picchiatelli. The German Stuka entered Italian production under license when domestic dive bombers failed, each costing roughly $2.4 million to manufacture. Dependence on enemy designs exposed Italy's industrial inadequacy, building foreign aircraft while indigenous engineering collapsed. Messerschmitt Bf 109G. Germany's legendary fighter rolled from Italian factories when Series 5 production couldn't match demand, approximately $2.2 million each buying proven capability. Every license-built German aircraft represented Italian failure, borrowed excellence, replacing domestic disappointment when survival demanded reliable weapons regardless of national pride.